Hey everyone, I'm excited here. I am here with my good friend Jason. Jason, if you will, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your company and organization.
Yeah, thanks, George. So my name is Jason Lindstrom. On the personal side, I'm a dad. I have two amazing daughters. And for fun, I love having adventures with friends and family. And then professionally, I'm also the CEO of a company called Bucketlist Rewards. Bucketlist is a rewards and recognition program, and we're on a mission to help companies build the best cultures in the world. What we've seen is when you recognize and reward staff, you can lower turnover more than 40% and really drive up employee engagement. And when you look around, a lot of the best companies in the world have a recognition program, whether that's the Google or the NFL or NBA or RBC Bank, just to name a few. And we help companies implement these programs more effectively and cheaper than they could on their own.
Yeah, I love this conversation because culture is something that I'm very passionate about. Can you tell us a little bit about culture, what it looks like, in your organization at Buckle is? How do you define it? What does that mean to you and your team?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And since we're in the HR tech space, we've tried to be really deliberate about building a fantastic culture. And I'll run you through just kind of tops of the waves, some of the things we've done. We've been really deliberate about building good, well-defined company values. We also have a really strong vision that's alive and well in the organization. For example, we don't share the vision when somebody joins the organization as a part of the interview process. We send the vision in advance. We ask people to read it, and we ask for them to call out a couple of things that they like from it prior to the first interview. So right from day one, people get a sense of where we're going, and hopefully we're able to build excitement with them. And it's pretty cool. I think a lot of these investments have paid off. We've been recognized as one of the top 50 best companies to work for in Canada for 2 years in a row. We're constantly surveying our team members, asking them how likely they are to refer a friend or a colleague. And we scored a 9.6 out of 10. And our revenue growth has been in the thousands of percentages over the past 3 years. And maybe like the best way to describe the company culture is just with a short story. Last summer, we did a company wide retreat where we flew everybody into Whistler, British Columbia. And at most companies, when people meet up, they'll shake hands. But at Bucket List, when people are arriving, when they're getting off the buses, everybody is hugging each other or high fiving, and it felt way more like a wedding than a company retreat. There's a lot of really great friendships here. It was so much fun, and some great, obviously, good conversations, good strategic takeaways as well.
That's awesome. I'm a hugger. I went down south, so I'm born and raised in Indiana, moved down to Georgia, Tennessee area for the last 6 years, although I'm back home now. So a lot of travel, but one of the things I love, the Southern hospitality and or Southern frustrations, but one of the things that I learned down there is that it's all about the hug. If you have your hands like, if it's out, that means you want to hug. And so I become a hugger. I think that's incredible that you do that. There's a lot of scientific proof, especially a 8 to 10 second hug or 20-second hug, what it can do to the morale of a person and individual. So making that connection, whether it's a handshake or a hug, is something that is pretty cool and exciting. You talked about a lot of good things, and one of the things that we hear, especially in this space, and not to be the Debbie Downer, but there are some challenges. We talk about the positivity of what culture can do, the engagement aspects, but a lot of times we don't discuss the challenges. I want to discuss some of those challenges because there are some challenges that I see, and I'm interested in what you see in HR teams prioritizing these days in regards to some of those challenges within the workplace.
Yeah, no, again, like a fantastic question. And I've had a chance to chat with like tons of HR leaders over the years and over the weeks and months. And a couple of recurring themes that come to mind. The number one or the top one I've been hearing is organizations want to maintain or improve employee morale and engagement. And it was funny. I've been picking up this vibe from the people I meet with, but I recently read in a study from Sure that 80% of HR leaders rank this as one of their top priority items for them to solve or for them to be thinking about. And the second really big trend I've been hearing a lot about is organizations are keen to retain top talent. It's funny because this is an important theme now, but when I think back over the years, this is always a top theme. Like if you talk to any like CEO or people team, like everybody hates to lose a top performer. And it's super interesting. Like if you dig down, scratch below the surface, like in specific industries like healthcare, for example, they're still experiencing really high turnover rates due to a lot of labor shortages. For example, hospitals have an average turnover of around 22%, which is pretty high. Like if you run the quick math on that, hypothetically, a hospital would lose their entire staff in 5 years at a 20% turnover rate. So, anyways, those are some of the themes I've been hearing about these days that seem to keep bubbling up and are top of mind.
Yeah, retention is a huge aspect. Can you talk a little bit about the positivity of the culture? Some of these challenges that we're facing. How can culture, how can keeping employees engaged? We talk about the recognition and rewards. What does that do when teams are working with bucket lists? Why do teams use bucket lists and the impact that they see as an outcome?
Yeah, recognition is super interesting. One of the top reasons people quit is due to lack of recognition. I mentioned earlier that a lot of CEOs hate to lose like the top performing VP sales or a great salesperson or somebody, a fantastic software engineer. And lack of recognition is one of the biggest drivers for people quitting. So statistically, 79% of employees who quit their jobs claim that lack of appreciation was a major reason for leaving. So, and it's no surprise, like if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is like kind of a psychological explanation of human motivation, right in that middle tier is everybody has a desire to be loved and appreciated. So everybody wants this. People quit if they don't get it. And then where it gets even more interesting is a lot of companies are just simply not good at recognition. More than half of Americans say they did not receive any recognition from their employer in the past year. So people want it. Companies are good at doing it. And recognition is a fantastic way to fill that gap. Um, and then lastly, when it comes to employee recognition and rewards, it's also one of the biggest drivers of engagement and job satisfaction. So it's not just about lowering turnover, but when you thank somebody, when you recognize them for great work, you lift them up. You can create these hero myths inside of your organization. People want to model and emulate the stuff that's being recognized and rewarded. So it's a good way to build a fantastic culture. And then maybe a couple just really quick stories. You asked about the pain we solve, and it's lowering turnover and driving engagement. But when it comes to impact, like we've seen some really significant results when people roll out a well-designed rewards and recognition program. For example, we work with a healthcare company called Home Instead, and we helped them roll out an employee rewards and recognition program. They did peer recognition, manager spot bonuses. And after rolling the program out, we helped them lower employee turnover more than 40% in some of their senior care homes. And another way, kind of a more fun, positive impact, when you reward an employee and you give them a really personalized recognition and a really personalized reward, that's a fantastic way to make somebody feel special. Just for example, we always encourage our clients to reward employees with personal rewards, but also to take care of their families. In one organization we work with called Vulcan, they do a great job of this. Over at Vulcan, one of their employees happened to love baseball. They lived in the Seattle region, and we sent this dad and his son to a Mariners game. I had a chance to chat with the dad afterwards, and he said it was one of the best rewards he's ever received in his life, not just at work, but in his life. And it's no surprise. You just take good care of people, and they absolutely 100% will respond with loyalty and passion.
That's incredible. I always think about, the importance of leaders really connecting with their team, knowing, hey, what does Jason really enjoy doing? How does he love spending his time? What's his passion? How does he like spending his time outside of work with his family or his friends? What are some things and so when I think about that and I think about bucket lists, obviously the name speaks for itself. I'm thinking, what's in my bucket list right now? What would I like to do as a reward? I think it's so powerful. The relationship aspect of it is what truly impacts me, seeing leaders truly engaged to the point where they know, in a sense, we talk about love languages or, that passion of their teammates to be able to recognize them and not just say, hey, here's some pizza and not know why the pizza's here, but really engaging and say, hey, here's something that I know you're very passionate about. And
Yeah.
because X, Y, and Z, we want to do this for you. Can you give us some top tips that you have for leaders that are watching today regarding employee recognition? Because that dynamic of that relationship to where you know, hey, this is something that I know that they're passionate about. This is a bucket list item for them, and their hard work, their performance has been remarkable. Or, I see it, they're struggling. It's not sometimes the great things that they do, but man, I know that this will help them get out of the funk that they're in. They're down and out. I want to reward them because I know that their potential is great. And I want to see them get to the next level, and maybe recognize some things that they've done in the past to help them get out of a struggle. Can you give us some tips for leaders on the employee recognition side of it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'll kind of maybe start by talking about what you mentioned, the importance of that personalization and making it meaningful to the recipient, because there's the recognition side and the reward, and they both matter quite a bit. When it comes to the personalized rewards, like you can do cool, bigger rewards, like you can assign a big budget for a reward, but it doesn't have to be big. It's all about what you said earlier, making it personalized and meaningful to the recipient. So there's a lot of no cost, low cost rewards that can really resonate with employees. Some playful ones, maybe fun ones, are like the CEO could call an employee's mom, like that might matter to somebody. Maybe it's a half day off. In healthcare, giving somebody some time off and going to the spa to be pampered can be really meaningful. Inviting people to a quarterly planning session can be great. I work with one girl, our director of demand generation. She happens to love donuts, this specific donut called Tim Hortons. And like I can send those to her, and I know it's good. That'll knock it out of the park for her. And like it's just making it personalized can be so meaningful to the recipient. In terms of like rolling a program out, just something to keep in mind that's super important is like what gets recognized will get repeated. So if you recognize people for living company core values, you will 100% see those core values being lived more frequently. With our platform, typically we make it mandatory to recognize somebody for living a core value, and normally within about 30 days, an entire organization will know your core values by heart, which is awesome. That's what you want people to have, is an awareness of the company values, and for people to be living them. Also, an important tip with employee recognition is one of the best ways to roll it out is something called peer-to-peer recognition. It's really hard if you leave it just to managers to recognize all the good work. You might have people out in the field that are doing some amazing stuff, working long hours that managers may not see. But if employees can recognize one another, there's going to be a way more recognition, and also a way higher engagement level in general. And then one final tip, as we were mentioning earlier, is just the importance of rewards. They'll really boost the overall engagement with the program, and you'll see a lot more recognition. And then lastly, don't forget to measure it. A lot of companies have the best intentions in mind. They'll roll a program out, maybe doing it manually in Google spreadsheets, and they'll start with a bit of a buzz, and then it'll decline, and then it'll go to low engagement or zero engagement. A well-designed program should have really high participation levels for many months and years. So those are just some top tips that I could share with the audience today.
That's awesome. Yeah, we have a research study that we've done called PEACE, Performance Engagement and Culture Enablement. And one of the things that stuck out there for employees that recommend their employer as a great place to work, 6.5 times more likely to say that the company provides opportunities for recognition and appreciation at their work. And so it's vital when it comes to that connection to becoming a good place to work, where people want to be there and be connected. And when they have that connection and recognition, they're 12.5 times more likely to be comfortable with giving feedback or even discussing things with their supervisor and manager. So we talk about ROI a lot, and sometimes ROI gets stuck in our head as a monetary value. When really it's about how we engage with our employees, where employees feel recognized, they feel appreciated and accepted and respected, right? That psychological definition of belonging, where they want to stay and be a part of a company. And I think about the aspects that brings. Sometimes the ROI is that people are showing up and they're happy. They're showing up feeling appreciated. They're showing up feeling that I've been valued by Jason, my leader. And it goes beyond monetary value, that the fact that Jason recognizes and appreciates me and is engaged with me on this recognition platform is so powerful. I want you to share a story. And I know we talked a little bit before this, and you have something you want to share, but I want you to share the story and just give some feedback to our audience that's on your heart or your mind right now.
Oh man, I'll share just an important one about the importance of taking action on this topic. We always recommend, when we roll out a program like this, to have senior managers recognizing staff as a part of the kickoff. And I remember being down in Pennsylvania at a client site and having a senior leader, the CEO, recognizing staff going around the room. and he's recognizing a bunch of people. And one of the people who's recognized actually started crying. And afterwards, I approached her. I'm like, "Hey, I noticed you're crying. What was going on there?" And she's like, "I've been working at this company for 7 years, and that was the first time somebody said thank you to me." And it's not just that company that's experiencing that. I guarantee every company has top performers, amazing people who are flying under the radar right now, who need to be appreciated and recognized. And if you take that moment, it doesn't have to be through a platform. You can do it verbally, via email, via instant message, on the fly. Like, if you're a conscientious manager and you recognize them, you're going to lift people up, you're going to build a better culture, and you can start today, because everybody has people like that in their organization. So take action, get started, do something, and don't forget to say thank you. It's like one of the most powerful management tools we have in our toolbox.
The simplicity, right? Something that we think is just normal becomes abnormal in a lot of places, and recognizing those just simple words that some people don't, they just want that appreciation of thank you, goes a long way. And so it doesn't have to
100%.
always be big, sporadic, huge ordeal. Sometimes a simple pull you to the side, thank you. But that's another thing. I want to ask you one more question, because this comes up a lot. How do we know? How do we figure out? George may not be a group setting appreciation type of person. Sometimes we have those who are private, very introvert. You have your extroverts that say, "Hey, I want the spotlight. Thank me in front of everybody." So I'm recognized. How do you balance a team that obviously have a group of individuals that are all different? Some people like the private appreciation. Some people like the exposure to be appreciated from the other groups. How do you encourage the leaders that are watching today, and the students that are watching here at HR Summer School, to make those approaches as a leader or a manager of their position, and connecting with their employees and teams on that matter?
Yeah, it's another great question. There's two ways to do it. You can just simply ask your employees, but maybe a more scalable solution that's good for a small company. But a more scalable solution for big companies is to survey your staff. And maybe as a takeaway, we can send some sample survey questions. But it's important to ask things like, as you mentioned, do you like public recognition or private recognition? Because people absolutely have different preferences. You don't want to make mistakes. Somebody's like maybe a software engineer, a little more private or introverted, and you call them out publicly, in maybe an all hands meeting in front of 200 people to recognize them for their good work. That'll create a lot of stress in their lives. You don't want to do that. It's important to survey staff, find out how they like to be recognized privately or publicly. And then also in that same survey, you can ask them how they want to be rewarded, like what matters to them. You're talking about the 5 love languages earlier. You can find out not just what their love language is, but also exactly how they want to be rewarded, whether that's donuts, time off, or getting to hang out with the CEO. So you're able to really personalize the recognition as well.
Yeah. Something that, one last stat, and I know Ben's probably giggly over this right now, and I'm sharing all this data, but something that I feel like really connects with Bucketlist in that piece research was workers are 2 times more likely to be happy with their jobs with no desire or plans to quit, when they have adequate opportunities for their contributions to be recognized and appreciated. And so another reason why recognition is so important. We talk about ROI. Retention is a huge ROI for a lot of people. When you're keeping good people and good staff, because you're giving them opportunities to contribute, to be recognized and appreciated, it goes a long way. Jason, if people want to connect with you, those who are in our audience today, we appreciate your time here. But if they want to connect with you, where can they find you? Connect with you online, social media, website? Could you share some of that information?
Yeah, great. And I'm more than happy to connect and help people. So if you're working through a retention or recognition strategy, or have some challenges with employee morale, please feel free to reach out to me directly. I'll send an email that can be shared with the audience with the key takeaways from today's conversation. And I'm more than happy to share resources, answer questions directly, or put you in touch with somebody on my team. And we also have a rewards and recognition playbook that I'm more than happy to share and send out as well. And of course, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I love meeting new people. I love helping companies, especially those that are interested in building good cultures.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, Jason, for the session. And I'm sure our audience are loving these comments that you're making and insights that you're giving. Thank you so much, sir.